Well, I thought we'd take one last look at our pizza garden before we get it ready for the fall crop. And it's been a real popular display here at our studio gardens, and Hortense the cow is finally starting to look more like a cow. She's grown some horns, I think, since the last time we looked at her. Her spots are starting to grow with the creeping fig. It's starting to take off. She's lost a little bit of weight with the sphagnum peat moss kind of shrinking, but you'll notice we have the drip tubing on here now. And that's helped out a lot. We just have the spaghetti tubing, and it comes on, oh gosh, several times a day just to keep this wet, because as you can imagine, it dries out very quickly. And we have a milking stool over here, and of course a little farm boy, and this is a neat little garden ornament that we got from someone in Fort Worth, Texas, who sent it to us. And you hook a water hose up to it, and then he actually helps water the garden by moving his arm back and forth. So that's been a real nice little addition too. But as far as the plants themselves, we've already harvested the onions and the garlic and the wheat, and we left the wheat stubble here just as a border to help define the pizza again. Remember, we have a slice of pizza with everything in the pizza pie. And the basil we put in a little bit later because we had a couple of harvests of that already. And basil, there's so many different types of basil. This is the purple ruffled basil, and the fragrance is very unique to basil. Back here was a spicy globe. Remember, it's the one that stays real compact and bushy. And you see that we're starting to get some seed heads, so we'll kind of deadhead those out to keep it nice and bushy. And a lot of people like the basil, and there's a lot of difference in the fragrance and the aroma just between these two. Some like a sweeter type for the pizza sauce, so it kind of depends on each individual person. And there's just hundreds of other ones out there that we don't even have in our display garden. Now let me show you another plant that also has a lot of different cultivars. There's a lot of confusion and misinformation about this herb that I want to show you here in our pizza garden, and that's on oregano. If you want to make a pizza sauce, usually the experts recommend using the true Greek oregano, but that's where the problem comes in. You're going to hear various really descriptions of what true oregano is. I've read it various ways based on flower color, height, etc., and pungency, but I called our local herb growing expert, Jackie Savage, who's been growing herbs for many years, done a lot of research on it, and who's been on the show many times. And she told me that the true Greek oregano, often called Turkish oregano, that the foliage, you can crush it and it has a very distinct odor, and that the flower, as you can see the florets here, have a little white flower starting to open. And we have a good clump of this growing in our herb garden over in our formal garden, and it's somewhat of a perennial. Sometimes it needs a little bit of protection, but it's done very well for us, I'd say, about the past 3 years. Now, most often, the one that you're going to find in the garden center, though, is called oregano vulgare, but it's often sold as a Greek oregano. And the difference is, when you crush the foliage, you'll notice there's a difference in the pungency, but the floret is more of a purplish color, and when it opens up, it's a pinkish purple flower. And so that's the most obvious difference. Here's the tag on this particular one, actually sold as Greek oregano, Oreganum heracleoticum, and that's truly the genus species of the Greek oregano. But most people think that this is Oregano vulgaris, which is not. So again, you want to be sure and look at the plant before you purchase it. And there's so many different ones on the market. You'll notice this one has a fuzzy leaf, kind of a bluish gray color, called Dittany of Crete oregano, used in hanging baskets. We also have some growing here. And you'll find over here I've got Syrian oregano, Mexican oregano, Cuban oregano, and even oregano thyme. And you can see how it could be so confusing, all with their own distinct oregano flavor and all used in different recipes. So again, I try to encourage you to be sure and be observant of all those characteristics and check things out before you go and try to purchase any, because if you're wanting true Greek oregano, there is a difference in that particular plant. Now, there's just about as much variation in the peppers that we've grown in our pizza garden too, and I want to show you some of those. This particular one here is called Tam Mile 2, and it's developed from the Texas Agricultural Experiment Station in Weslaco, Texas, actually for a commercial production, and we thought we'd show you some of those here in our garden. It is a jalapeno pepper. It's a medium green color, and as it matures, or it stays on the vine and ripens more, it turns a red color. One of the best things about these cultivars coming out of Texas is that there's just all kinds of virus disease resistance, and that's probably one of its best selling points. The next one is Haloro, which is a jalapeno pepper on a semi-compact plant, and you'll see that it's kind of a yellowish color to an orange, real nice one there. And then a sweet pepper called Rio Grande Gold Sweet is a diamond shape, yellow plant, and also gets a mature red as it gets older. Now the thing about it, this one is a sweet pepper. It has a rating of 1 being very sweet, 5 would be mild, and a rating of 10 would be super hot. This one here, the Haloro, has a rating of 8 or 9, so that means that's really a hot one. And back here at the Tam Mile 2, that's a rating of about 2 to 4, so it's not quite as hot and pungent as this one here. Now over on our next row, you'll see I have another sweet pepper called Blushing Maiden. We got this one from Ornamental Edibles out of California. This one is more of a whitish color is what they call it, and then it turns this blushing maiden color almost is how it's described, a brownish orange color, and then as it gets even more mature, a red color. So when you're seeing the descriptions and they say harvest as white, that's what they're telling you to harvest it as. You can leave them on and they'll turn a different color. This one is called Bell Captain. It's not really done that well for us here, from Twilly Seed. It's somewhat of an elongated bell shape of a pepper, again on compacted plants. And this is one that I kind of like called Jingle Bells. It's a miniature bell pepper. It gets a red color as it matures, and so it's used as bell peppers would be, but also they promote it as an ornamental pepper. So you can see there's been a lot of fun things going on in our pizza garden, a lot of different variation, and it's something you might want to try to educate your kids on next time they eat a pizza about all the things that can also grow in a vegetable garden.